Joining us today on our Inspiring Ideas for the Classroom edition of Superheroes of Science, we have Sarah Chattin, who is a chemistry teacher at Hamilton Southeastern High School. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Hey, Sarah, good to see
You as well.
you. With this one, let's start with what's some things that's working for you, and with this whole remote learning thing. It's kind of new for all of us. It's thrown at us. We might have had e-learning days here and there, but mercy. What's some things that you've been happy that's kind of worked?
Biggest thing that I am taking away from this is if you ask your students what's working for you, what's not working, what do you like, what do you not, they're going to tell you. Early on, after about the first week, I said, give me what's been your learning fiasco on e-learning. What have you liked specific to this class, specific to other classes? Don't name names of teachers. Just tell me what's been good. And what I got out of that was we really like the format of pick your instruction. So I gave them just notes. They can take a look at it. If they understand it, they do it. They can do I edit and modify on screen and video that and let them take a look at it. And so if that's enough for them while I explain it, a taped lesson, some have liked that. And a couple gave me feedback and said, it would be great if you could do a live lesson. So I've gone to doing a live lesson every day on something new. And I get 6 or 8 students who tune in, depending on the difficulty. Some days I get no one, others you get more. So just giving them a chance to feel heard and letting them know that you care. I mean, you see all over the place people saying, get the relationships there, let them know that you're going to listen. And it's all been, on the one hand, you're thinking, I have to keep my content up because if they get to AP chemistry or if they get to college chem, they're going to get eaten alive. But at the same time, there are so many students facing so many challenges that we aren't thinking about. It's important to address that too.
No, I love that advice, and that's often something that we're all kind of guilty of forgetting to do. But ask the kids. Yeah, it's because with all their unique situations, and find out what they're enjoying and what's helping them the most. We get so obsessed with making sure that we get, we got to give them this, give them this, give them this, and maybe I need a new unique way. Okay, then I'll just do it this way. But we kind of forget to ask our audience, don't we? So I think that's awesome. That's awesome advice. And I like the fact that giving them choices. Are you doing like a choice board type thing, or just doing like a list of different ones and assigning different values to, or how are you doing that?
On our learning management system, I'll put up, here's what's going on. Here are the notes, and I just link everything. Here are the notes. Here's the live lesson. Here's the taped, the video of it. Here are some homework problems. Feedback I got was, you're doing a great job of giving us lessons, but I was trying to keep to my district's 20 minutes. They want 3 lessons a week, just 20 minutes. So we went from 5 50-minute class periods to 60 minutes a week, and that's all we're supposed to be doing. And that's a huge cut of time. So I thought, well, okay, we'll cut down on the number of practice problems. And they said, no, we could use some more. So I link practice problems, Quizlets. They're really liking that kind of stuff. That's just, they don't need to do a worksheet. They don't need to print things out. It's just, here, try this. And then you give them supplemental links in case they need some more practice.
Sarah, for a course like chemistry, and I think that's a really great point. You're going from, you said 5 50-minute classes to a total of 60 minutes each week. how do you choose? Like, how do you choose what you're going to cut and what you're going to focus on in general? Because that I would be overwhelmed. I don't know how I'd do that.
It, so I went back to what are the major standards, and what are the things that are the hardest standards. And I cut some of the depth because at an honors level, you might go into we're working on pH right now. And so in my regular class, I would have gone pH to POH, concentration to pH, pH to concentrations, things like that. And I decided to cut some of the variations and just make sure that they understand calculating pH, but I varied. Did I start you with concentration of a base? Did I start you with concentration of an acid? And so you just either lighten up the depth, I guess lessen the depth, or go through and some of the supplemental things I cut.
I see.
A lot of teachers are looking at it and saying, let's give them choice projects. I'm opting for, I want to give content that's going to be long-term beneficial. So hopefully I'm doing that. We'll see.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, cutting our whole curriculum down to a shorter amount of time we spent so much time on curriculum guides and stuff to get all the things we needed, and now trying to pick out of that for a smaller amount of time is definitely stressful for all of us as teachers. But it's so, yeah. But I think it's really neat that your students are asking for more. We want a little more explanation. We want a little more practice because they're understanding themselves that, yeah, I need more practice so I understand it. And I like that your students are taking that ownership. That is so awesome. Now, you said you're posting notes. Your original notes, are you doing like a video explaining like a lecture, or how are you doing in recording, and what are you using for that?
I use Zoom. In a couple years ago, I was using Screencast-O-Matic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really good way. I hear a lot of people using Screencastify. I started with Zoom so that I could do, face-to-face calls with students, um, and realized that I could open up my documents on screen. I could open up the Zoom window, and it looked like um, Mr. Anderson from Bozeman Science, with here I'm writing on my screen and here's me in the corner. And students seem to like that when they could hear and see. And they said it felt a whole lot more like what it would feel like being in class. And then as soon as you're done with your lesson, then Zoom gives you the link and you can post that MP4 link
Mm-hmm.
to your web server is.
So how are you writing on the screen? Are you using a tablet to do it, or?
I have a ThinkPad, and so you can do it a couple different ways. If you have a PowerPoint and a stylus, you can annotate the PowerPoint. With Zoom, I can just write all over everything on my ThinkPad screen.
My daughter has a whole touchscreen thing on her school computer too. She was bragging about it last night.
That's pretty fantastic. I kind of happened upon it by accident and said, "Oh, this is going to be good."
Well, that's also since I didn't have that, I didn't know you could. I didn't realize you could do that with one of them. Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. So what else?
Well, so
What else is are you finding, or what struggles are you finding too? What hurdles are you overcoming is a good question too.
My biggest sadness is that students aren't doing labs. Um, Trying to come up with something. There are Phets out there. If teachers don't know about um, the Colorado Phet simulators. They're phenomenal, and they should be using them because they've made so many more of them. The HTML5, so it runs on iPads. But in pH, we'd be doing here. Take a look at all of these things around your house. Find out whether they're acids or bases. They didn't have pH paper. I know some people on Twitter were talking about mailing their students pH paper. I couldn't figure out how I was going to mail 165 students pH paper.
That tell you, yeah.
So I've done a little bit of video simulation and just taping. My husband's been helping me tape a couple of things. I've got a titration that I need to finish up, and then I'll put that live on screen. Students aren't getting the lab experience, and I don't have a really great way to do that because as we think about all of these, things that I could have students do for gas laws, put marshmallows in the microwave. Well, that's great if they have marshmallows at home. They're losing that part.
Is there a way that as you give them choice, that any of them could, if they did one of these, they could share the video with the class?
I don't know. I don't know how kids can share things.
Sarah, what was that one app that we played with a year ago where we did that?
Is it Flipgrid?
Yeah, maybe Flipgrid. Where
Okay.
that sounds about right. That sounds right, and we like gave them a small assignment, and some of them. One of the teachers' unit was just like the student. All right, your first assignment was introduce yourself and one interesting fact. All the kids have these little 1 to 2 minute video things that they did on there, and the other kids could click on them and kind of get to know. But then you could do response things. You could do a video, and then they could respond with short videos on that.
Oh, nice.
And so, yeah, I couldn't remember the name. That is the name of it, though, Sarah? Flipgrid? Okay.
I think so. I think that's one of them. It sounds like what it can do. Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Excellent.
look into that and see if that might give you opportunities. Is that way, out of 160 some kids, someone probably has it and is willing to do it and post a video for the rest of the kids. And that way you're not stuck doing videos for every single thing you could think of.
It's a great idea.
So it's
now also, Sarah, I know you had mentioned too, and I thought it was a really good point about some of the students. Let's say you're asking them to do something with a marshmallow or really any kind of pantry item, and about being sensitive towards what some students have and some students don't, or just being just that awareness of what students have. So I kind of liked your thoughts on that. I didn't know if you would speak a little bit about that.
Sure. When you think about acid-base chemistry, people said, oh, red cabbage. Use red cabbage juice indicator. And I thought, okay, so I'm going to ask my students to take the food that perhaps was given to them through food pantries or SNAP programs or things like that. And now they have to use the food that they're just barely hanging on to do an experiment with. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. So I think as we plan what we want our students to do, we need to be thoughtful of, can we either give them choices in what they're going to do? Don't expect that just because we are fortunate enough to have things in our pantries that everyone will. So I thought, maybe baking soda and vinegar. That seems like that might be something that's reasonably cheap and good reactions for students to do. Things like if they don't have red cabbage hanging around, you could lead them toward cranberry juice or tea or blueberry pie filling, anything that's a dark colored fruit that has the anthocyanins in them. Those would be great things to separate out, to swap in so that it's easier for kids to do. I thought about having them do things with antacids and testing how many drops of vinegar does it take until it stops bubbling. I mean, just little things that we can do that, might not necessarily be food, but might be something that they would have sitting around home.
I think that's a really great point. And I think then, paired with using something like Flipgrid, then you're kind of, if they have it and they're able to share it, that's great. But just because they might not have access to it doesn't mean that they're going to be completely missing out on some of those opportunities.
Yeah. And I like the whole choice thing, giving them choices for the different ones. I do like that. I know we're not eating out as much, so we're not taking the antacids like we used to. It was more of a staple when we were eating out. For some reason, I don't need them as much now. But I know for my daughter, for chemistry, she was asked to make something. And I kind of looked at my wife. I'm like, do we have plenty of that? I mean, like, I don't want to be out of flour. Right. Do we have plenty? Right. You know? And my wife's like, yes, we have plenty. Calm down. Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Well, there was a run on flour for a while.
I know. I remember it. It's like, I remember at the store and not seeing. I'm like, are we good with this? Everyone's baking. Yeah. And so, relax. I won't starve to death, they told me.
But I like that, though. I think that's important to keep in mind with, offering those choices is just, be aware that, accessibility might not be across the board. And I just think that's a nice thing to keep in your mind while you're developing those. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yes.
Brought up to me as well.
Yeah. All right. So I want to know, all right, the red cabbage. All right. And this is for me. Now, the red cabbage thing I know as an indicator, but you said you could substitute a tea and a blueberry filling?
So I've taken blueberry pie filling,
Yeah.
and if you stick blueberry pie filling in a baggie and baking soda on one end and vinegar or whatever acid on the other and mush it around, it's an indicator as well.
No way.
Yeah.
I want to try that now. I didn't know that.
I see mad science in your near future.
So I'll be taking over the kitchen from the girls. Usually there. I'll be like, it's for science. Miss Chat told me good.
I saw someone was dyeing their spaghetti. And so, immediately I thought, ooh, not rainbow spaghetti, but color changing spaghetti. If you had enough of that hanging around.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time. These are short ones, just kind of so teachers can hear from other teachers mostly and what you're doing and stuff. And we appreciate you sharing that with us and taking your time.
My pleasure. It's one of those things that we do what we do because we've had other people to lean on who look at us and say, you know what, this is how I do it. And then you just improve upon what somebody else has done. So keep asking, keep looking to our peers.
I like that. Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you for listening to our podcast.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
An outstanding
on
review.
iTunes or your preferred podcast player.
Tweet us your science questions.
At Purdue SOS.
Until next time, be super, and remember,
You are someone's hero.
boiler up.
Hammer down.